So today I wanted to talk about how to regulate your emotions if you're struggling with complex PTSD. So anyone that has CPTSD probably feels like how I felt at one time, that my emotions were running me. I wasn't in control of my emotions. I wasn't the boss. My emotions were. Not that I wanted them to be, but my emotions, when they would kick on with an intensity that would cause me to be in ways that wasn't really me. It was my survival self, but it wasn't my authentic self. So I want to share with you things that helped me. And I'm not necessarily talking about at the moment where you're dysregulated. I'm not talking about when you're having emotional flashbacks. I'm not talking about when you are highly triggered, what to do then. I will do videos on those topics, but this video right now, I want to talk about how you can build capacity on a daily basis just to be able to handle emotions on a daily basis. So not 911 tools, but tools to help you to really feel like you're back in the driver's seat of your life, of your emotions, and of your body. One thing that was helpful for me on my CPTSD journey was learning to reparent myself. And with that being said, I just want to say that truth being told, I was always reparenting myself before I know I had to reparent myself, but I was reparenting myself in alignment with the parenting that I had had in childhood. I didn't even realize it. And so what I mean by that is if you had if you had emotionally unavailable parents, or if you had narcissistic parents or caregivers that were toxic for whatever reason, when you had emotions, what did your caregiver do? In fact, I want you to pause and ask yourself that question right now. How was the response to emotions met in your family? When you were sad, what happened? When you were angry and upset, what happened? Most of us, if we had toxic parents or an unhealthy upbringing, a few things that are common that happened are we were either shamed for our feelings, we were made to feel like our feelings were bad, or we were punished for them as if they were bad and we were bad for having them. So our relationship to our own feelings from the time we were young was not healthy. And so what a lot of us did is we do what children are made to do, which is we internalize and we grow up and we begin treating ourselves that way. When I would make a mistake, or when I was sad or disappointed in myself for a way that I was being, guess what I would do on the inside? Do you think I showed up for myself? No. I would insult myself. I would shame myself. I would get mad at myself. I would punish myself in some way, shape, or form, beating myself when I'm down, like kicking myself when I'm down, so to speak. So I was reparenting, right? I was imitating the parenting that I had in childhood. I was now doing that to myself. And to be honest, when I first realized that, that was a big eye opener. I realized that I didn't have anyone outside of me treating me that way anymore, but now I was the one that was guilty of doing that to myself. And so I had to learn reparenting in a way where I didn't have a model. I didn't have a model to go by. I wasn't going to reparent myself how I was parented, because that certainly wasn't healthy. And I was doing the same thing and I was getting the same results. I was feeling shame. I was suppressing. I was rejecting self. I was abandoning self. It was bad. So I had to learn how to reparent myself differently. Instead of ignoring my feelings or hating my feelings, I had to learn how to manage them, how to see them, how to allow them to be. And guess what? That was not comfortable. Because remember, if in childhood your feelings are met with shame and anger, when you have them in your adult life and a feeling starts coming up, because the feelings are felt in the body, we like to intellectualize our way through our feelings, which is exactly what we were talking about this last Tuesday in our live meeting on Zoom. We talked about how we so much want to intellectualize our way through our emotions, but we can't. Feelings aren't in our mind, they're in our body. They show up in our body. Think about it. When you're excited, when you're falling in love, you get butterflies in your stomach. When you're nervous to speak, you feel it in your throat. When you're scared, your body tenses. So our feelings are in our body. We can't think our way through them. But because in childhood they were met with so much shame and anger, we kind of separate ourselves. In childhood, we leave our body and we live up in our mind. Our body got us in trouble. The feelings got us in trouble. And so when we start learning how to work through our Cptsd and we start feeling feelings in our body, it is so uncomfortable. It's a lot. In order to do that, in order to begin changing our relationship with our feelings, in order to reparent ourselves the right way by not ignoring our feelings, we have to build the capacity in our body to feel those feelings. So what the journey usually looks like in the beginning, the Cptsd journey, is whenever a feeling starts coming up. And by the way, as much as we would love to try to control our feelings, because in childhood we were made to feel feelings weren't safe, so we try to control them, right? We suppress, we negate them, we ignore them, we try to control them. As much as we would love to do that, we can't. Like, our feelings arise without our conscious consent. They happen automatically. What we want to start doing on this journey, we want to start changing how we show up for those feelings. And if you're at the beginning of this journey, you'll find that one of two things tends to happen when you begin to start giving yourself permission to feel, and you begin to start looking and noticing what's going on in the body. One, you'll either find that as soon as a feeling comes on, an intense amount of fear comes up into your body. We feel like the emotion is too big for our body. It's too much, and it really freaks us out. And that's usually the case if your trauma response is fight or flight. Or if your trauma response is freeze or fawn, we tend to feel disconnected from our emotions. We kind of feel like they're not in our body. We can't even feel them. When we try to feel our feelings, we might feel very numb. And it's not that there are no feelings there. By the way, if you're like, oh, I have no feelings, I'm just numb. It's that there's so much going on that your nervous system has kind of given you like a Novocaine to not feel what's going on. In a way to try to keep you safe, it disconnects you from your emotions. So I'll give you some tips that help you to begin learning how to regulate your emotions. And these are things that I teach, by the way, weekly in Thriver School of Transformation. We meet live on Zoom, and each month we have a different topic that we work through. And throughout the month, we always do exercises that help us to build capacity in our nervous system. So if you're interested in a consistent weekly resource, I'll leave the link there for you. But some of the things that we talk about doing, the first one is starting to notice the sensations in our body. And I say sensations because when we think of the feeling, sometimes we see or name the feeling and we dive into the feeling and we become the feeling, right? So let's say I feel fear as a tension in my chest. And if I say, oh, there's fear, and I still haven't learned how to manage my emotions well, and I still don't know how to regulate them, it's like all of a sudden I become fear. And I'm so afraid I'm having a panic attack, or I'm so afraid I disconnect and I shut down. So rather than going right towards the emotions in the beginning, learning to name the sensations. And words are important. So as you're noticing sensations in your body, using the words, a piece of me feels tense. A piece of me feels like a void. A piece of me feels numb. It makes that piece of you smaller than you. Whereas when we're like, I'm numb, then all of us gets this idea that we are numb when it's really just a piece. So we start making the emotion smaller and you and your body bigger. That's a really big help. And the second tip that I'd like to share is that when you notice a sensation in your body, especially if it's an uncomfortable one, what we want to begin doing is being able to stay with our sensations longer, right? So instead of it comes up and we disconnect, or it comes up and we blow up, right? We get really angry. We want to learn to sit with them longer. And so learning how to pendulate. So we notice this discomfort in our body. Let's say it's our stomach. Let's say we feel like there's a fiery volcano in our stomach. And we notice there's a piece of me that feels like a fiery volcano. Asking yourself, is there a piece of you that feels different? And then allowing your awareness to find areas in your body that feel different. Again, this is making that emotion smaller and your capacity to be with it bigger. And then practicing in small doses consistently will really help you to begin to learn how to regulate your emotions. And again, if you're looking for weekly assistance, make sure you check out Thriver School of Transformation.